We have four readers actually, and they'll be doing 5 minutes each from their most, interesting part of the book. So then after that, we'll go into a Q&A with TD and Dr. Ola as well. And vote of thanks, then we go have a really nice light meal after that. I'm sure we'll try and get us out of here really quickly and not bore us too much. Yeah, so I think, are we good? Brilliant, so we can kick off now really nicely. I like to speed things up. So it's not Nigerian time, no African time. We move it really quickly because I know TD will have quite a lot of words to tell us today. And let's have a good time. So we'll go straight into the vote of thanks with Dr. Ola.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's lovely to be here. My name is Dr. Ola Brown. I work in the technology sector. I run a venture firm called HealthCap, which invests in healthcare and fintech specifically. And I've been investing since 2015. So this is our second fund, and it's great to see everybody here. When Tomi first told me that he had written a book, I was really excited. So I was like, what's the promotional plan? And he began to say, oh, well, I'll just sell it to a few of my friends. And I said, no. There's a difference between those of us that are on ground in Nigeria, you people that shuttle. Those of us that are on ground in Nigeria all the time, we know the way that things should be done and the manner in which they should be done. We must mark it, we must launch it, we must wash it. It would be a travesty for you just to be saying, oh, well, I'll just put it to a few of my friends will just put it to. No. There must be an event. In fact, my original plan was even 10 cities. So he's lucky that we ended up with just this. But it's really great to be here today to celebrate somebody that has been very, very impactful in our ecosystem. Some people call him Tomi Davies. Some people call him TD. The Igbos will call him Tomi. Some people call him, the younger ones, Uncle Tomi. I recognize him, and most people in the tech industry recognize him as the godfather of angel investing in Nigeria. And most importantly, he's our friend. Tomi has completed nearly 40 deals across several countries in Africa, leading to the creation of nearly 1,000 jobs. And his book, The Investment-Worthy Startup, looks at the characteristics of tech and tech-enabled businesses that are suitable for investment. And before I sort of really explain why this is so important, I will tell you a bit about where we are in Nigeria today. So in the year 2000, China had only 38,000 millionaires. And India had just 34,000. So they both had similar numbers of high net worth individuals. By 2019, China had gone to from 38,000 to 4.4 million millionaires. India had gone from 34,000 to 1 million millionaires. Now let's look at Nigeria's record. In 2014, Nigeria had 12,300 millionaires. And at the end of last year, we finished last year with, it had dropped to 9,700 millionaires. So if you compare that to, let's say, Mumbai city, for instance, in India, where there are 60,000 millionaires in Mumbai alone, if you want to compare the number of millionaires in the whole of Nigeria to an Indian city, you'd really be looking at Hyderabad, which is like the Ilorin or the Ado-Ekiti of India, a tier 3 city. So in terms of producing high net worth individuals, we've done quite badly. When we look at foreign direct investment in Nigeria, in 2008, it was 4.8 billion. So foreign investors looked at Nigeria in 2008 and decided to invest $4.8 billion in a single year. Last year, it was 400 million, so less than 10%. So it's dropped by 90%. Nigeria has almost 40% unemployment rates, and this contributes to our security challenges because unemployed people become bandits, they become Yahoo boys, they become kidnappers. So this leads me to why angel investing is important. Tech companies that are backed by angel investors and VCs account for nearly 25% of American GDP. So almost 25% of all the money being made in America right now is being made by companies that were backed by people like Tomi Davies. Venture capital and angel investing actually powers the US economy. 20% of the largest public companies are VC backed. And it's been in the news recently that the 15th largest bank was automatically backstopped by the federal government in America. And people wondered why. It was a systemically important bank, yes, but was it too big to fail? Probably not. But what the government then realized is that one of their most important and strategic sectors was going to be severely affected if that bank was allowed to fail. So they came in and backstopped all the deposits 100% in the bank, which is quite rare because these same people let whole Lehman Brothers fail. So it shows how strategically important the technology sector is in America, and it should be to us. I hope that the launch of this book will start to make all of us think, if we're not already, get all of us thinking more about how we can start our own angel investing journeys, either starting by partnering with a syndicate like myself and many of the other people in the room run, or by starting by yourself. Because in my opinion, backing entrepreneurs is practically as just important and impactful as giving to charity. Technology is going to be a big part of the future of Nigeria. There are 1 billion people, over 1 billion people living in poverty in Africa. It's going to be a big part of their futures because technology means innovation. It means what Africa can give to the world in terms of products and services. And it represents an opportunity for us to increase our participation in the world, because right now we're 15% of the world's population, but we only receive 1% of the world's investment. So there's a huge gap between how many we produce. And I think that technology can help change that. So the small picture is that our friend has written a book. The big picture is actually a stronger, faster growing, economically sound Nigeria, a prosperous and more economically viable Africa, and a more innovative world. Welcome, thank you.
Thank you so much for that nice welcome. Okay, all right, that's fine. So we'll go straight into the About the Earth author. So we'll start with, sorry, I don't know your name. You have to do a quick introduction, right? Okay, brilliant. So you have 3 minutes.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dipankar Rustagi. India by origin, born, brought up in Nigeria. I have been here for almost 30 years plus, 28 years plus. How do I know the author? I got to meet him 12 years back when I was starting my first venture. And sorry, when I was starting my first venture, it was called vconnect.com. Some of you must have heard of it. Some of you, yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. But at that point when I met him, it was just taking the first few steps. And the sort of support that I got from Tomi Davies, the sort of backing that we received to take that venture forward. So imagine starting up a venture in a country where you don't have the sort of connections, but he was one of the first few guys who supported us, helped us with almost everything, which is connecting with the right people, finding the right trust, building a team, building an ecosystem of connections that could help us support and grow. So from then on, I mean, for good or for bad, WeConnect didn't do as well as it should have done, but we went on, started another company, and the relationship we built with him has been there. I today run a startup called Omni Retail, and his support, he's one of our directors, he's one of our board members. His support has always been there. The book's title, Investment Worthy Startup, I think the whole idea of investing in the right quality of startups, right kind of startups is something that I've learned from him firsthand. And I really appreciate what I've learned, and I look forward to reading in the book what he has taught me in person. And I thank you and look forward to feedbacks and responses on the book from each one of you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Tomi Davies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll be inviting Mr. Tunde Fowler to give us an insight on who Loved Their One is as a young boy.
Thank you very much. As a young boy, when I think back about Tomi, and when I really think back, I actually get worried myself because I've known this young gentleman for over half a century. And he was a good friend, still is a good friend. But one thing about Tomi was that he was always active and always had a bright idea of doing something. So I think the youth or the young Tomi, I think will stop at the teenage stage. If we go any further, I don't know what would happen. But Tomi was always full of energy, full of ideas. And when I heard that he was launching a book, I asked my friend, where has Tomi been? The first thing I asked him also, but let me just congratulate you from the title of the book. I think it's a book that has come at the right time, especially for Nigeria and Africa. I certainly will get to a few. I usually don't read books outside my interest of revenue generation, but this is a book that I will read. So Tomi, congratulations, and of course, always great seeing you. And it was, of course, a delight to meet Mrs. Davies. I don't know how come this is our first time of meeting, but Tomi and I knew each other when we were about this high. And I think in London, I'm coming back home and back and forth. We just never crossed paths, but it's great seeing you again. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much. And moving quickly again, Mr. Jide Ogundare, giving us an insight of TD as a professional.
Good evening, everyone. I've written a few words down and I would like to read them so I don't leave anything out. But when I came in the program and I said I was to talk about TD, a professional colleague. Colleague, okay. That's thinking too much of myself. But allow me to say a few words about the man that I know and everybody yes. First of all, I'm honored. I met TD at a point in my life that I'd like to define as the beginning of the second half of my professional career. This was in 2012. I had just left banking and was looking to set up MBO Capital, an investment firm. I think we got on very well from the very start, and it was clear that TD was a consummate professional and one who shied away from the limelight and preferred his works to speak for him. This really resonated with me because it's very unlike what we're used to in this environment. You would agree with me. Well, sorry, TD. I know that all of this does not fit into our profile, but you know, you can run, but you can't hide. And to whom honor is, we have to give. The second thing I realized very quickly was that TD was a tech startup guru by any stretch of imagination, both nationally and internationally. I mean, I would mention his name to literally anybody in that space, and they would say, "Oh, do you know him?" I mean, it was kind of a claim to fame at some point for me also, I have to say. This was evidenced by his co-founding role in some major angel investor networks and membership role in many others around the world. I mean, I'm sure if you read his, profile, you would know what I mean. Look, I think I'm going to digress from this a little bit. When I met TD, there was something, I remember a conversation I had with him, he probably doesn't remember now. I'd set up MBO Capital, I was looking to form a board. And one of the sectors we're going to focus on for investment purposes was tech space. So when I met him, we started to talk. And one day he said to me, he said, "Jide, something keeps drawing me to you. And it seems we're destined to do something together." At that point, I jumped at the chance and I said, "Actually, would you mind sitting on my board as a director?" And he said, "No, it'd be a great pleasure." I believe he was going to say yes, but he said yes so quickly. I was so happy and overjoyed. I remember I got home and I said to my wife that I'd ticked one of my most important boxes, finding the right talent for my board. So fast forward over the next 10 years, we've been at it now. This is 11th, 11th year. At board meetings, insightful discussions, not anything outside of tech. You could be sure that TD would be very professional in his discussions, in his outlook on things. And I had him to go to. He probably also wouldn't realize this. But over the years, when you're starting up a new business, as his book probably tells you about tech startups, things can be very difficult, but you have to ride those storms. And during those periods, TD, I would be talking to him, but he would speak to me. And it was always about encouragement. This will pass. Don't worry, you will do okay. You're doing well already. You guys are doing a lot. And I would have to then sit back and think, okay, so he says we're doing a lot. What exactly are we doing? And there was always a silver lining somewhere there. And once I found it, I was further encouraged. He said in his the book, I was reading what people had said, and somebody said, it gives you a roadmap if you want to raise money as a tech startup in Africa. Well, I agree with that. But I go further to say that it's relevant even if you're not a tech startup. MBO Capital is not a tech startup, but everything he wrote in that book was relevant to us. All you have to do is just remove the tech, and everything resonated and was relevant to our business. I really would like to say thank you, TD. I'm happy to be here. When I was coming, I said to my people in the office that our director is launching his book today. 2 people wanted to come. I said no, because I didn't know what the arrangements were going to be like. But everybody says congratulations to you. We look forward to seeing you at the next board meeting. Again, he's one of us. So when people are looking for TD, I am so sure I will see or speak with TD at least once a quarter. He cannot hide. Okay. Congratulations, TD. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So the next person, I'd want to leave her for the last. So I'd like to call on Lande Adejuwon to come and give a few words.
Good evening, everyone. When I was asked to speak, I thought, oh my gosh, what an honor in the first place. And then secondly, how can you talk about Tomi? We need perhaps 6 of us or more of us, and we wouldn't be able to finish talking about Tomi. And the reason is because of the impact that he has had on our lives. And I wondered, you know, what gives me the privilege or the honor of being able to stand here? And it might be because I'm probably the first protege or youngest. We go back as far as 1987. I had just come back from England and finished my youth corps, and I'd gone through a rigorous process of getting a job with Shell. And I joined as a programmer trainee, and then I was going to be a programmer analyst. At Shell, it was a 1-year training program. And after about 2 months, I thought, am I going to do this for another 1 year? Anyway, then I heard that there was somebody in Elf Oil, 33 Creek Road, who was looking for an assistant or a program analyst to build the IT department. I had a conversation with Tomi, and immediately I resigned from Shell, and I joined Elf. There were just 2 of us, and I think we had 1 or 2 PC-286 machines, for those who might remember. But the thing about Tomi was, and I think all of us would resonate with that, is the fact that he's not just your boss, he's your mentor. He leaves you excited, passionate. He takes you along, and then he has a knack of teasing you into, oh, you know it. Yeah, you know it. You can do it, but he won't tell you the whole picture. So that you have to do the research and you have to sort of go and find your own way. Anyway, that was way, 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 way back. I've never forgotten that. And I say to everyone that I meet, since ELF, I've worked with many global institutions in the oil industry, as well as in the UK in the financial services. And everywhere, once I walk into the room, because of the experience in ELF, I think with that 286, Tomi had written a general ledger, and was in the middle of accounts receivable. We built everything from scratch. So I walk into a room and I'm already thinking about all the systems and all the connections. When you're talking about your business, I can understand because of that experience with him. I owe a lot of my success to that. And I had the opportunity last year of having brunch with TD in the garden center, my favorite garden center in the UK. And I reminded him of, I think it was just after he left, or he was about leaving, one Friday afternoon, where we were called the head of electronic data processing at that time. And one of our data processing class, Meg said, there's a bouncing ball on my screen. Before we knew it, within 2 minutes or 3 minutes, all 4, we had graduated to 4 PCs by that time. All 4 PCs had bouncing balls. I thought, what am I going to do? This is Friday afternoon. Anyway, of course, TD to the rescue, or Tomi to the rescue, called him. We couldn't find him. I'm not sure whether it was Lola that told me that I will find him in Takwa Bay. So the following morning, I got on a boat. I got on a boat and I couldn't swim, petrified, found TD over there, and he was just calm. Said, don't worry, we'll sort it out. I don't think he knew how it was going to be sorted out, because by the time I went back to Lagos and he came back to Lagos later on in the evening, he didn't panic and come back with me. He took his time, spent the rest of the evening researching. And I think by Sunday, that was Saturday, by Sunday, he said, there's something called Nothing Antivirus. That's his solution. Anyway, and Sunday night, by Monday, we were okay. During that brunch, we had a lot of discussions, catching up on things over the years. And the key thing about Tomi is change. When going through his career, we were like ants in sugar, talking about the technology feats he had accomplished in the different organizations before he went into angel investing. He's passionate about using technology to solve problems, to solve real problems. That was one of the reasons I also from Nigeria. Instead of doing a PhD in differential equations, I wanted to solve real problems, use technology to do so. And I just thought he has not changed. Even when he went into talking about poem, I thought, yes, this is, the same passion And what Poem talks about in terms of, vision, organization, it's from his experience. We are privileged to have that wealth of experience in that book, because I haven't read the book fully, but he has told me about the elements of Poem and they are spot on. So I am going to look forward to reading it. I now run a co-working space called Co-work Style Limited, and Co-work Style is there to be a platform for lots of companies that are going to help to make a better Nigeria. I'm looking forward to, we have quite a number of technology companies at the moment, but I'm looking forward to more, and the continuous flow and steady stream, I think it's, of tech companies making Nigeria great. All over the world, I've worked with many people in technology, and I'd say that the most brilliant, starting with yours truly, the most brilliant have been Nigerians. There was one person who was from New York, Chinese, and he was also brilliant, but I can count at least 5 with Tomi at the top of brilliant Nigerians who, unlike India, should make Nigeria increase our GDP just through technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And the lady of the hour, Mrs. Davies, she's going to walk us through the frustration having to deal with TD while writing this book. Please come forward, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone. Thank you. Well, my name is, as she said, Mrs. Davies, Lola Davies. What do I say and where do I start? Do I have 3 minutes or 3 hours? I've heard everyone make their speech, and I can say, really, I loaned him to the tech world. And I've had to meet so many beautiful people here this evening, and they were so pleased and telling me, oh, thank you for giving us Tomi's time and everything. But I want to, I've been told, like, try and let you know about his home world. He's my husband, my friend, an admirable father to our 3 children, and a doting gramps to our grandsons. Hence, I will focus on the dedication of this book. But before I read this, I'll say 1 or 2 things about him as well. Tomi, I've heard from Tunde that he has lots of ideas. When Tomi has an idea, he just goes for it. And to be honest, as his partner, as his friend, I'm also towing that. So we have like a soundboard, with each other. And once it starts, I know that we are on a journey. And the correlation, to be honest, between us, now that the children have all left the house, they've flown out the nest, is that we're almost in the same space, but in the different spectrum. Because I'm an educationist running nursery schools, and he's in the tech world with the startups. And like Jide said, you can take out the tech, and the Poem framework works in all aspects of businesses. So in that sense, I work with children from, say, 6 months to 6 years. It's almost like the startup of early years. And Tomi works with startups from six months of incorporating the business to 6 years. So how good is that? So we have a lot to discuss, a lot to talk about, and I see the correlation because I work too hard. I'm a Montessori trained teacher. So I see the perseverance when it talks to the startups and the yearning for success, and it's amazing that all the aspects that has been spoken about him is who he is right up to now. Because when I married him about 38 years ago, I knew, well, I'm going to marry that technology, because that's him, that's his life. So Poem framework is an acronym that has evolved over the years. And like Landis said, you really took me on a memory lane there with ELF and that journey. It's evolved so much that it's just amazing that it's happened to put it now in a hard copy, simple enough to read for everyone. And it's like he's not ready to write another book. So I go, let's slow down first. So it's amazing that even talking to him, he feels it's got so many positive feedbacks from the tech world that it just shows how intense that he loves his space. And during the journey, like my friend here said, there are times he got flustered, there are times he got frustrated, because if, like I said, if he has an idea, he must start and he must go on that journey and he must finish it. So those moments, I'm probably there for him, like, let's have a break and have dinner. Let's have your lunch, have a break. And he persevered. And this book was launched on the 8th of February, 2023, was published, sorry. And that date is quite a special date for the Tomi Davies family. And I was so pleased about that. And he's quite good with his family. He knows how to, he does give us time. He knows time for his family, his children, his grandchildren, hence the dedication of which I'm about to read now. Hold on to this. When you do all read this book, he says, this book is dedicated to those aspiring and using innovation to build a better Africa. And my two grandsons, Kanyo Lua and Kayo Kari, whom I hope to read this book in the future. But unknown to him, Kanyo Lua is already reading it and is only 5. Because there was a day in London, he told his friends, Gramps wrote a book, Gramps wrote a book. I was like, oh, what book is that? So he was so proud to show his friends. And he, in this dedication, he did put in there that he's put all I know about building great Africa's startup companies in here for you to use and make even better. All my love, Gramps. So Tomi, congratulations. I love you to bits. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We'll quickly go into, okay. Okay, I'm seeing your message, but you're twisting my arm now. The time is, okay, no problem. I'll be calling on Abiola Alabi to come give a few words. Please come. Your name is already out there. Thank you.
Someone warned me that this could happen to me tonight, and I didn't believe it because I was like, no, he would have told me because he has an agenda. My name is Biola Alabi, and it's really an honor to be here representing Lagos Angel Network. And there would be no Lagos Angel Network without TD. The first time someone approached me to make an investment, I invested. And I got a call from him to say, I see you're one of our angels. I said, angel, okay. What's this one? So he then told me and said, you have to come. You're now a member of the Lagos Angel Network. And that's how TD started dragging us everywhere he went. And it's been an amazing journey. I can't tell you how much it means to me to see Poem in his own words and in his own writing, and to actually see this book launch. We've had many conversations about this book. I'm hoping the podcast is after this. But what's really important is this contribution that is in our own voice that represents what's happening in Africa. There's so many books we read. There's so many people that share book lists, but they're not African authors. And so we're reading about things that don't make sense to us. We're reading about things that are not in our own context. We don't see ourselves in this story. And what's beautiful about Poem is that Poem is something that TD runs 3 times a year. We're currently in the 16-week process of Poem right now. There are 6 entrepreneurs, 5 companies, and they're going through Poem every week. And they actually are building their companies based on this book. So this is not only theory, this is practical. And it's important for us to have more of these type of stories in the world. And because TD is a global representative of Africa, we now have another contribution to the world of startups, not only here, but on the global stage. And so I just want to say congratulations to you. And I want to say a big thank you for making sure our voices are being heard, not only here, but in the world. And I'm looking forward to seeing this book in libraries everywhere in the world and hopefully in institutions. So thank you once again. And it's so good to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry for putting you on the spot. Then TD wants us to call on someone else as well. Olumide Shoyombo.
Okay, thank you very much, TD. I think the first thing I'll say, my name is Olumide Shoyombo. I'm an angel investor and venture capitalist. The first thing I would say about TD is, I started using a phrase from him, he doesn't know, but I don't use it when I speak to him, but I use it when I speak to everybody else. When you ask TD, how are you doing? He says, I'm doing exceedingly well, thank you. He doesn't just say well, like he has to add the exceedingly well. I guess when you have done so many investments that are going well, you can say that. I've not been that privileged. I met TD in 2014. I started an incubator called LeadPath to start investing in startups. And TD was one of the first. He was already obviously investing in companies prior to that. And he was actually the one who anchored the launch of LeadPath in Yaba. He was the MC for the day, and it wasn't even planned, but he took over, introduced me to the ecosystem, and he made sure he carried me along. In 2014, it was those very early days where we had this big idea that would invest $25,000 then for 15%, good old times. So I did $25K for 15% in different startups. I put them in front of investors in 3 months, in what we call a demo day, and hopefully they can raise bigger rounds. But in 2014, there was no bigger investor to put them in front of, so you had to write another check again in the same companies. And TD was there with us all the while. He introduced what we call mentorship capital, because he realized that it was not just giving money to startups, right? There are so many folks today who have, I mean, even I, right, gotten our hands beaten by just giving money to startups and leaving them. And TD understood the value of anchoring those startups, working with them, building with them. And I think the success of our ecosystem, so many people, and Dr. Ola, I think did allude to it, so many people don't seem to organize, don't seem to appreciate what we are going through right now. This is almost like being in the valley when the valley was being built. There are going to be monster companies that are being built now that in 15 years, in 20 years, you won't even recognize what they look like. We seem to think that it's so far away, but it will be here very, very soon. And those are I think TD is the biggest evangelist of investing in Africa. And that's why he has written this book, so that you can understand the Bible on how to invest in Africa, because this is the time to invest in Africa. Who's going to own our future unicorns? It's going to be people in this room. And TD has given you a Bible on how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Really quickly, Tomiwa, let's have you up front. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. The last thing that Olumide said, I think that's critical, is how far we have to go as an ecosystem. Tech About turned 10 this last month. One of the earliest startups that Lagos Angel Network invested in, and Tomi Davies led that deal. That's 10 years in which we've been chronicling the African startup journey. And I say when we started, we didn't cover Africa's startup ecosystem. We didn't even cover Nigeria or Lagos's startup ecosystem. We covered Yaba. Some guys that had Dada in the corner somewhere there, we thought what they were doing was kind of interesting. Bankole, who also had Dada at the time, and didn't look like, someone you really should put money into, would walk around and meet other people like himself. And it's like, this person is doing something. They're going to build something that matters. And ultimately, a lot of those companies have come to matter. I mean, a lot of them have also died. I say Tech Cabal is a graveyard of great ideas and bright ambition and things that were really, really interesting at the time, but didn't make the jump. And I think the reason you have books like this, and the reason that some percentage of those people, of those companies survived to become worth millions or billions or whatever it is that they're worth today and will be worth in the future, is because of people like Tomi Davies and the lessons that they were able to impart. So as an example, Tech Cabal, which is one part of Big Cabal Media, would not have succeeded, would not have survived without Tomi Davies, without Biola Alabi, who's also here, without their guidance. And so when he talks about the POEM framework, which is one of the things that the book covers, what's the opportunity, but what are the people? What are the economics of this business? What are the milestones that let you know that you are actually going somewhere? It's a very simple framework, but it's quite effective actually in capturing the key things. So from a people perspective, Big Cabal, always had brilliant people. At a certain point, the people weren't gelling, they weren't working together as a business. We were going to die. And they went and found one outside person and they brought me in. So Tech About turned 10 last month, but I've only been with the business for about 5 years. If you know anything about startups, you know that surviving through a founder transition is a very, very rare thing. Just the negotiation required to convince somebody that I built this thing, I've put 4 years of my sweat and blood and tears into it, or 5 years of my sweat, and then somebody's going to come and I'm going to hand them a bunch of equity that they're not going to give me any money for, so that this business can go on. And the investors that have given us money, and we spend the money, that's just, everybody should move on. Bridging that gap is really, really tricky without Tomi Davies's guidance, without Biola Alabi's support. Big Cabal wouldn't have survived that, and Tech Cabal would not have turned 10 last month. And I think the wisdom from those experiences, the very, very hard-won wisdom, and it's hard-won because when we had to raise another round and we talked through what we had done in 2018 in managing that transition, it was clear that there were big mistakes that we made at the time. And so anybody who reads the book gets the benefit of all of that hindsight and all of that knowledge, because TD reached out to me one day, said, we're going to write the Big Cabal case study document. And it's like, fine. And he wrote the first draft. And then, he sent it to me and I made 16 changes, and I sent it to Bankole and he made another 16 changes. And then it got to Sheyi, and Sheyi is like, stop, let's start again from the beginning. So when you read the book, it's just, yeah, okay, lessons. But this is, and TD for Big Cabal's first round, TD convinced, if memory serves, 27 people to put money into the business. I think he was the 27, so there are 26 other people, 26 angry people like, Oga, money don't lose. How far? Stressing you day in, day out, year in, year out, and they don't harass me as much, or hopefully not him as much these days. But at the same time, they're still sitting down like, where's that check, Oga? You told us that this thing was going to make us all. Don't be laughing like that. You're not supposed to agree with me. Anyway, TD has been one of the most stalwart supporters of this growing industry, not just in Yaba, not just in Lagos, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent. There is no angel network on the continent that he has not been involved in helping to found or to guide or to set up structures for. When I talk to founders, when I talk to investors today, one of the things that is striking to me is the strength of angel investment that actually is happening here. Almost every founder who has made any money, not that they've exited though, but at least they're getting small salary now that, and they're a little bit comfortable. All of them are investing. You know, all of them will give you a 5K check, will give you a 10K check. We'll do introductions, we'll do support. And I don't think any of that happens without the work that TD, the Lagos Angel Network, the African ABAN, like without all of that work, without all of that sort of like laying the groundwork and setting, this is what matters. We're building this thing for the future. It's not all just build and collect the money today. I think without that, I don't think you have the ecosystem that we have. And it's very, very early days. 2023 is a tough year from a fundraising perspective. It's a tough year for markets. It's a tough year for tech ecosystems. But when I think about it and when we talk about it, we say it's a watershed year as well. It is in difficult years that the best companies get built. As tough as things are at the moment, there are brilliant people still in incubation stage, still in very, very early stage. This angel investing that we're talking about means that if you have a brilliant idea, even in the middle of this winter, somebody will give you 15K to move from start to the next spot. And if you need to, and I think the more impressive thing is that we are now gathering enough capital to do follow-on rounds. Voltron and Shoyombo don't have to do it by themselves. Other people will now back his investment and go, okay, let's all of us pull it together and get to 100K. Let's get to 200K to move them past whatever sort of break or gap there is right now. And again, all of that's testament to the early work that's been done. And it gives us a chance to build really, really valuable companies that will solve key problems across the continent, that will build real value for all of you who are also writing checks. I hope you're writing checks, or supporting whatever ways you can. And for those looking to understand the investment journey from either side. So as startups looking to understand how to be effective, how to convince investors that what you're doing is worth backing. For investors looking to understand the journey, because again, it's not just write the check, go home, and sometimes some investors will do that, but somebody in your investor group had better be doing the work and making sure that these startups that you're putting money into will actually go the distance. And I'd like to thank TD for always doing that, for always being a supporter in that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tomiwa. So moving quickly to the man that brought us all here today. Let's welcome Mr. Tomi Davies.
Yes, I prepared something. First and foremost, I want to thank personally each and every one of you that has taken the time out to spend this time with us here today. I've heard a lot about myself, but without you, I'm nothing. The reason I can do what I do, be who I am, okay, and achieve what I have is because of each and every one of you that is here today. What I do is very simple. I take, I improve, enhance, or do whatever I can, and then I share. That's simple. Now, I do believe The humans are using technology to build a better life for humankind. And innovative African startup founders are using technology to build a better Africa. I also firmly believe that supporting these innovative startups creates not just economic value, but also social impact. I see innovation hubs and business angels like myself as a critical calm down, as a critical local resource to founder and startup growth. And locally led, I repeat, locally led international support is an accelerator to the development of our African startup resources. My name is Tomi Davies. I am from the Ogumade Davis ruling house of Lagos. And before I go any further, I would like to say a big thank you to somebody who's not here, but thanks to my younger brother, reminded me we'd be celebrating 118 years if we were alive today. So everything I'm doing for today is in memory of my late father, Chief Hezekiah Oladipo Ogumade Davis, known as HOD. I have him to thank. Everybody says I have a brain. It came from him. I got a gift of the gab. He was more articulate than you could shake a stick at. Okay? HO was a man's man. And if I can do or achieve 1/10 of what he did in his lifetime, I'd be greater than you think I am right now. You need to have known that man. Then you'd understand that, yeah, I've heard a few things about myself. It pales into insignificance when you think about him. So, Icho, wherever you are, I know you're up there. Thank you. Now, my first foray into entrepreneurship was on my return to Nigeria after university education in the United States in 1985. Two friends and I started Dane Computer Services alongside a host of other microcomputer companies in Lagos. We successfully executed a number of projects, but unfortunately my father passed on and I left Nigeria, and that was the end of Dane. Until I was starting to write this, I didn't realize something. But guess what? I then spent a decade, the next 10 years, tripsing all over corporate Europe, courtesy of Marks and Spencer, building digital transformation for them. Over 600 stores. I built something called the ISP 1.5, had a battle with IBM. I did all kinds of wonderful things. Interesting. But the point was this. I returned to Nigeria 10 years later in 1999. And I started Technovision Communications. Most of you know us as TVC Labs. And most of what you're hearing has been the trials and tribulations of TVC Labs and myself. I became, during the 10 years in the UK, the chief operating officer for Ernst & Young's incubator called futurewealth.co.uk during what we call the dot-com bubble. And that is where the genesis of the Poem framework came from. When we started to think about how do we get the traditional businesses, which we called the bricks, okay, to merge with the new digital businesses, which we call the clicks. And it is that merger of traditional and futuristic that has sort of been the hallmark of my work since then. Over the last 20 odd years, quite a number of you here would have seen different writings But guess what? The first actual publication of Poem as a framework was in July 2013 on SlideShare. I checked. So it's going to be 10 years since I've been pushing this. Now, why does it matter? Well, let me credentialize myself first. My very first angel investment was to a friend's company to do a comic book. The comic book, at that time, I got involved because it was going to give my people education. I still believe we're sub-educated in Nigeria. We don't have enough non-traditional educating material. That's why I got involved in technology-enabled learning. That's why I did the comic. But at that time, we're going to do Fantasy League. Sorry, before we did Fantasy League, we're going to do superheroes. So it was going to be Chaka the Zulu and all of that. But I managed to convince Oliver, who was the founder, and we ended up with a Royal of the Rovers for Africa. Today, you can remember Royal of the Rovers. Exactly. That's what Super Strikers is. We just did the African version of it. Today, Super Strikers is a property that's owned by Disney. But guess what? It took 18 years. And that's the reality of our environment. Okay? It takes 10 years to become an overnight success. When you remember that, then you just keep going. And what had happened? Well, first, I already knew about how you go to market. We all know that. We know you need a vision because Stephen Covey told you that begin with the end in mind. Are you going to Yaba? Are you going to Korodu? Are you going to Abuja or are you going to New York? Either way, you're leaving the house, but the destination will determine how you leave. That is why we say you start with the vision. And once you have a vision, then what we've articulated in the book is a mechanism for bringing it to life. We say you have to have a proposition that is delivered by an organization that can be measured economically as you traverse the milestones. That's all Poem says. So big grammar. What does that mean? Proposition, organization, TD, you don't come. All right. The proposition says you start with the market. You have a vision. Which market? You can't be bigger than your market. Why? Because the market then defines everything from size to people to regulation to competition. You know, what you can and cannot do is predetermined by the market you choose to enter. So that's the beginning point. Once I know that market, the question then becomes, who are those customers within the market? Because once you understand the market, you can know that if I go to Saudi Arabia, I can't sell alcohol now. It's unlikely as a man that I'll be able to sell to women. So you know the customers contextualized by the market. Once you're clear on your customers, then we can start talking about your product and the problem you're solving for them. And that's it. That's the proposition. Okay? It's a product service offering to a specified customer in a target market. Once you know that, you know where the money is going to come from. And hey, I can see where who is going to do it. That's when we now talk about the organization. Who are these people? Who are the shareholders, the management, the employees? Okay? Who are the partners that are going to make this stuff happen? Okay, it's those people. Yep, I can see how that will work. All right. How are they going to do it? You said there is a solar company. What solar substrates are they going to use? How are they going to control the pay? Is it going to be an API to the cloud or is it going to be local? How will they get things done? What are those processes they will uniquely use to differentiate themselves? Once you know that, the question then becomes, okay, the world has moved to what we in tech call the cloud mobile infrastructure architecture. How's that going to work? What are going to be the communication channels between your mobile client and your cloud services? What kind of security protocols are you going to work out? What kind of latency is going to work for you? What are those details? It's when we know those three, all of which, by the way, The technology, subscription, licensing, and other costs, right? Processes cost money. People, last I checked. So you can see, we know where the money is coming from. We know where it's going. So we can look at the economics. How much money did your father put in? Your father didn't put any money. You want me to put money? You must be joking. Your man will put, me and you want me to put. Let's see your family, friends, fans, and even fools put money. Because once they've done that, then it means that high risk takers, and that's what angel investors are, don't let them guarantee you anything else. Okay. It's just being able to mitigate. They come next. How much should an angel put? And if the angel puts this, how many more people will you employ? How much more revenue will you make? What will happen based on the input of capital you are taking? What results will I see? Because like Olumide was saying, if I give you 50K and you use it to generate 50K, it means if I give you 100, you could probably generate 100. But let's see you generate it. It's not about theory and talk, it's the execution. I want to see the bank accounts go ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So it's when you know that, you can then look and say, okay, I gave you 50K, you spent it on this. How much did you make? The cost base, the revenue. So that tells me what kind of return over a 10-year period. I was fortunate. I went in at 5K. I came out 18 years later, 250,000. You do the math. It's possible in angel investing. That is the point. But if you don't recognize it as patient capital, long-term play, then you're not probably going to get the kind of impact. Is it more jobs? Less jobs? Is it more revenue? What kind of impact? Are you employing women? What are the things you are doing to make a difference? You then get that capacity. And it's understanding that all of that is happening in a specified format. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking of SMEs. I'm talking of startups. A lot of people say, oh, startup and SME, startup and SME, startup. I don't do SME. My wife does SME, and she does it amazingly well. I do startups. What's the difference? 3 fundamental differences you can take away from this evening. The first is how they grow. Dipanka was here talking earlier, right? His company is averaging anywhere from 18 to 20% every month in increase in revenue. We call it month-on-month growth rate. He's currently at about $120,000 a month. The company is less than 4 years old. That's what we mean by startup. Explosive growth, more demand than you can supply. More people to work than you can find. Okay? Processes that are immature, but yet need refining. Those are the characteristics of a startup. That's why we deal with startups. SME, I know how many students per head. I know what the ratios are if I'm building a hotel, if I'm doing a restaurant, if I'm doing, okay? A startup by its nature is innovative. It's doing something nobody else has done before. So there's no reference point to say, oh, this person did. You might be like, but you're not. So that's the nature of startups. Now, why is that important to me? I've got to take you back a bit in my history to what triggered this. One of my day jobs early on in life was as head of IT research for Marks & Spencer. And as head of IT research, I had the privilege of helping Microsoft develop its framework for capacity development of engineers. And what happened? I got home having, okay, you know how I work. I'd put everything in, so they came up and they finally had Microsoft certified professional. The guest was happy to talk about it. And then I get to London and said my people, hey, we're going to go. Yeah, let's go. And they came back and said, TD, you think we're like you? Where are we going to find 3,000 pounds to be doing course? You do what? £3,000 for a 1-week course. I got so pissed. What did we do? We set up a network in my front living room and we started training engineers. 65 Nigerians got MCP, paying zero. But I learned something through that experience too. Apart from the fact that we got some amazing engineers, some of them I'll leave you, I won't mention. If you're in the room, you know yourself. But here's what upset me. I want to leave with you as to why I continue to do this. First year was okay. Second year, third year, we asked some of the people who had benefited and said, please, can you train those coming behind you? 2 people out of 65 showed up. 2 out of 65. However, if you let things like that get to you, you're never going to do anything. That's when I decided, you know what? It's never going to be about the results of others. It's going to be about what I can engineer. And that's why I seem to be like a solo player half the time. Because, you see, I'm not doing this for money. It's not that I'm not a billionaire. I don't need to be a billionaire. I eat 3 square meals a day if I want to. That's all I need. The measure of each and every one of us, I believe, is the quantum of value we have contributed to making other people's lives a bit better. So that's why I had to trap everything I know about building startups into a book. And it's not about investment ready. Anybody can be investment ready. We have investment readiness programs, just Google them. The question is worthiness. What do I mean by worthiness? It is the appropriateness of that investment in time, in people, in money, and most importantly, in the contextual opportunity of it. So this book's been written for the startups that I work with, will work with, or may never even get to work with. But the idea is for us on the continent to have something that is our own, that we can use to have our conversations. Like I told somebody who came to London, I think she'd been the first time, was in February this year. Her comment was, they don't take light. But guess what? Here, they take light too. I was walking at our club earlier and I told her, I said, you can see our membership money burning in diesel. Okay, that's the reality of our environment. But you see, the advantage we also have is we've got the brains to solve it. What we don't have are the systems. And that's what this book, I hope, will start to get us on the journey on. I'm not going to bore you anymore. You can listen to what it actually says yourself. Again, thank you very much for listening. I hope you all find it useful.
Thank you, TD. So we're moving quickly now. We need to catch up on time. So we're going straight into the book reading. Yeah, so Ola, thank you so much. So while we're waiting,
so we have 4 people that are going to, players in the ecosystem, that are going to read some of their favorite excerpts from the book. And the first person is Olayemi Keri. Yemi Keri is one of the foremost women in technology in Nigeria, who's experienced in both the public and the private sector. She's Chief Executive Officer of Hackabella Limited, and she's also a partner at Holman Consulting, an information technology consulting firm.
Good evening, everyone. And Didi, thank you for spotlight today. I mean, you introduced me to the ecosystem in terms of angel investing. I didn't even have a clue what angel investing was until TD called me. And even as Rising Tide Africa. He was, I think, really the brain behind Rising Tide Africa. When I said I wanted to do something in Abuja. But I'm here to read my favorite part. One of the critical things is that we invest in the human beings, the founders. And I thought that, my favorite part was that we could use examples of us and some of the founders that have excellently succeeded in their different areas and use it within the book to tell people how and who and what you should look for in founders. And so my own part I'm reading from is about knowing your page 14, which says, know what makes you an ideal African founder. To understand what makes a successful African founder, let's look at the key traits I have personally observed in some of the inspiring Nigerian startup founders. He went on to mention Funke Okpeke of Min One, Inyaboyeji, and Della Flutterwave and Future Africa, Tayo Oviosu, Haga, Bosun Tijani, CC Hub, and Sim Shagaya, Deal Day, Konga, and Ulesen. And he spoke about the different traits that were common and had similarities within them. Visionaries, passionate leaders, managers, executives, self-aware individuals. But the successful founder of a startup venture means having the right attitude towards delivering your business vision and determination, grit and openness to learning and the change required to achieve success. That was very profound and key for me when I was reading it, because we continuously, on a continuous basis, you have deals. Now is a lot of decks sent to you. You have a lot of founders come before you, but you have to take a bet on them, not only their ideas, but take a bet on them. He talked about the fact that these founders have strong inner drive that helps them flourish. That is the passion that we as investors always look for. It's that inner drive. They not only set aspiring goals for themselves, but are totally committed to achieving them, regardless of the countless challenges they encounter. A founder in Nigeria, I would say, experiences more difficulty than other environs. I don't know if there's any economy where you would be running a business and all of a sudden they tell you there's no cash. You know, these are experiences that are really profound. I won't tell you about those founders that had to go through COVID. I know a lot of us went through it, but those that came out on the other side, each of them, we're talking about those that he cited examples of, has a strong sense of self-confidence and a healthy opinion, not only of their skills and abilities, but also of their shortcomings. It is good to know yourself as a founder, and that is what he's pointing out. But I must say at this point that, you know, they grow into it. In the beginning, it's not always that they already know themselves, but they understand their inner passion and abilities. Their assertive and strong personalities means they are always focused and do not really dilly-dally with the issues at hand. This is what from the rest. These great founders are all the lookout for new innovations and ideas that are potential winners. So, I mean, you heard Tomi was speak here today. It was not what we invested in that is manifesting now, right? So there will be different iterations of your ideas, but they always are always focused. These great founders, a critical important quality of great founders is their openness to adopting positive change. This also speaks to your, when investors say, are you coachable? Or if a mentor is speaking to you, how easily would you be ready to change based on their advice? They tend not to be headstrong, that's the word, or stubborn when it comes to choosing alternative opinions. I once had a mentee who told me, you don't know my business. I'm the one that knows my business. I'm telling you that, and so from there, I just struck her out straight away. There was no way I was going to invest. So there are some that are they're passionate to the point that they don't want to have an open mind. Approaching challenges with an open mind and eagerness to learn new things is one of their attributes. They understand that to stay ahead of the pack, they must keep evolving with the times by exploiting the latest methods and technologies to serve their customers better. The bottom line is great founders are emotionally intelligent, self-aware, and high achievers. The question is, are you? So that was my favorite part. Thank you.
Is Uche Aniche here? Hey, perfect. So Uche Aniche is a tech and innovation ecosystem leader, and he is the founder and CEO of Habila and Hills, a hybrid marketing and communication and software development agency. He also doubles as the director of the South Angel Network. Angel investing in the creeks.
Good evening. I must say that it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I flew all the way from Port Harcourt to be here with TD. But that's not, that's for me, that's not a sacrifice, because TD does even much more of this kind of things for people that he works with. I remember that several years ago, when I felt as an ecosystem leader running startups out, I felt it was necessary to build an angel network that's focused on the South and the Southeast of Nigeria to deepen and decentralize this whole ecosystem, this whole conversation that we're having here today. I spoke to a lot of people and I said, this is what I want to do. And every one of them, including those that I respect highly, actually discouraged me from doing it, because everybody's like, why would you want to do this? Who is going to be part of this? Why is this? Is this here? Is this here? Is that here? Only one person. I flew into Abuja because TD was going to Ventures Platform to hold a program, and I wanted to meet him. And I flew into Abuja and I'm like, TD, I'm here because I wanted to see you, and this is what I want to do. And TD said, why not? That was the first person that said, why not? He said, okay, is this available? Is this available? When do you want to start? TD flew to Port Harcourt. TD flew to Port Harcourt, held a masterclass, with me and the people who were ready to start an angel network. And after that master class that we had over a 3-day period, we started an angel network, the South-South-East Angel Network. And the rest, like they say, is history. Today, we've done, close to 20 deals, over 35 people in that network because TD believed. We've moved on to try to start a fund, and he says, I'm backing you as well. So that's the type of, he was with us in November when we had our conference. He came from UK to attend our conference in November, just last year. Just a bit of the type of things that TD would want to do because of the type of things he believes in. So thank you, TD, for this opportunity. I looked through the book, and people matter a lot in everything, and in the startup space, in what we do, people is one of the most important assets. And so for me, it is very, very important. It's very, very, I would say it was very, very interesting and not quite surprising that this book had a whole chapter dedicated on building a great team. And for me, it's one of, there are lots of all the chapters here I can say are my favorite. I don't have a special chapter, but because I had to do this, I had to pick out one that I needed to just read. And I'm just going to just read out a few things he said about building a great team. On page 90, he says, find the right people. Employees are the people who work in the startup ventures. In the earlier stages, the people in your startup are the most valuable asset. If you are approaching an angel or seed investor with just an idea or a prototype and a vision with no valuation or customer, or with no validation or customer, sorry, my eyes, with no validation or customers, they would want to make sure your team is equipped with the necessary experience, expertise, and passion to successfully execute your plan and turn it into the expected outcome. Fundraising is a major reason why starting with a team is important. Then this chapter goes on and on and on to as much as teaching and telling you how to go about finding the right people, including places where you could find the right people. It talked about the specialized marketplace where you could find virtual marketplace, where you could find talented people to work with. He talked about recommendation and referrals. He talked about cold outreaches, finding people and sending out cold messages. So basically, he covered a lot of the things that it's important in finding the right team. Most times when we try to coach startups and when we try to teach building a startup, we will always say to the founders that finding the right partner, especially the co-founder at beginning, to a large extent is like finding a spouse or a life partner, because to a high degree, these people are going to be the ones who would get your back when the journey becomes very rough. Because trust me, a lot of times it indeed gets very, very rough. And so building a great team around this eventually becomes like adding a bit more layers of support and cushioning to the whole startup journey. I think it's a great, not that I think, this is a great book that every founder needs to get. Every investor needs to also get. And I'm glad and I'm happy and I'm thankful to you, TD, that you had to put all of this in writing. And thank you so much. We appreciate you, and of course, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Nkem Bigu. So she's going to be sharing her favorite part of the book with us, and I'll just read a bit of her profile. So Nkem is a seasoned and experienced information technology professional. She's managing director of Future Software Resources Limited and is focused on building the Nigerian technology ecosystem through enabling policy development, investing, education, and mentoring. They've missed part of your CV, but anyway, it's shortened CVs. All right, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And congratulations, TD. This is a really amazing moment. And, you know, I think everyone here is proud of you, proud of your contributions. TD is one person that I've met in many rooms. As a founder, I went to him many, many years ago. I'm not sure he even remembers, in his office in Yaba to get advice. And he gave advice freely. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know who my co-founder was, but he helped us. I came across him again on the stage of Social Media Week when they had the pitch competition. I was one of the judges, and we used the poem framework. I've come across him when you say he's one of the people that has inspired me to walk this same walk, right? And to invest into the ecosystem, my time, my experience, my knowledge, my money, and to help grow this ecosystem. And I think it's really important that we all take a tiny slice of his cake and sort of try and fill those massive shoes and walk in his footsteps. So TD, thank you for inspiring not just me, but many. I know many in this room and many that are watching online. I'm going to be reading from chapter 7, Know How to Get Things Done. So in this chapter, TD sort of talks about the structure of an organization, processes, planning, and governance. And I'm going to be reading from page 101, Governance is Critical to Decision-Making. So in the last room that I met TD is a boardroom. And I've learned a lot from him. And, again, that board is focused on impact. It's focused on the ecosystem. It's the Lagos State Research and Innovation Council board. It's one of those boards that helps you really understand the role of governance and the role of government as well. So today I will read Governance is Critical to Decision-Making. Governance may be defined as the system by which entities are directed and controlled. It is concerned with structure and processes for decision-making, accountability, control, and behavior at the top of an entity. Governance influences how an organization's objectives are set and achieved, how risk is monitored and addressed, and how performance is optimized. In this case, that entity is your startup. Proper governance will ensure that everyone in your startup follows appropriate and transparent decision-making processes, and that the interests of all your stakeholders, owners, managers, employees, partners, customers, and others are duly protected. Governance provides you with a clear distinction between the owners of your startup, the shareholders, and the managers, the board of directors, when it comes to making strategic decisions. A good governance system for your startup should include, but is not limited to, the following: ensuring that the management of your startup considers the best interest of all stakeholders in decision-making, helping your startup deliver long-term financial growth and economic impact, improving your startup's valuation as as it reassures investors that you are good investment for their money, giving you control of appropriate management and information systems such as security and risk management, giving guidance to owners and managers as to the goals and strategies of your startup, minimizing opportunities for wastage, corruption, risk, and mismanagement of your startup's resources, helping to create a strong brand reputation for your startup in the market, your startup's performance and the performance of your board, the relationship between your board and your startup's management, selection, appointment, and evaluation of your startup's board of directors, your board's advisory and directors, membership and responsibilities, risk management, corporate compliance, internal controls, communication between your startup's shareholders and management, financial reporting by your startup. I chose this section because I think this is a lesson that every single founder should embrace. A lot of the time when we ask questions during DD around governance, around board structures, founders are like, I don't need a board. Yeah, it's like, I mean, why would I have board members? And it's just because they don't know yet, right? The importance of a board. And I think there are many, many companies, both local and global, where governance has failed because the board structures were not done properly, right? And where companies have collapsed simply because they lacked governance. And where from the outside you say, but where was the board? And who was on this board, right? Governance is something that can slow a startup down, but I also think that it can help you really persevere and be sustainable and be around for a really long time. So be careful how you bring it in, right? Take it slow, but make sure that you bring it in, and make sure that as a founder, you understand governance, and make sure that as a founder of a startup, you really understand the sector that you're playing in and the compliance that you need to, have within that sector, that you understand your risk framework, that you understand, nowadays ESG, that you understand diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of those things that come with governance. So TD, thank you for including this important chapter in your book. Thank you.
We have one more reading. It's been so interesting so far, because even though I've read the book, just the pieces that people picked out have been so diverse, and I've really enjoyed the perspective shared. So we're going to listen to one more perspective from Fadila. Fadila is the Secretary General at the African Business Angel Network. Notice it's not just Nigeria, it's Africa, Pan-African, across the continent, 54 countries. She's also managing partner at AMZIL, a managing consulting firm that has helped small and medium-sized businesses all around West Africa. But they're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ola. I will be very brief. And first of all, it's an honor to be here with you today. And thank you very much, TD, for writing this book. I think, let's call it a Bible for the new value creators of the continent. And I think we are in the phase now where value is being created by these new geniuses. And we believe that the empires of the continent have not yet been created. They're still on the way. And anyways, so for the book, I think the chapter that I really enjoyed the most, one of my favorite parts, is very much speaks to the relationship that I do have with TD as the president of ABAN. And I must admit that, and of course, congratulate him for holding the board for many years now of very strong women and men who have accomplished a lot of things on this continent. And we have had TD actually holding the board as a president and making sure that everyone is able to contribute positively to the growth of our angel network across the continent. So, and my relationship with TD has been very consistent for the past 3 years. We have had meetings every Monday at 3:30 p.m. for 15 minutes. and TD has never missed a meeting. And really, and what I wanted to share with you today is only 2 paragraphs actually, how to get things done. Chapter 7. Organizing like planning must be carefully worked out and applied process. This involves determining what works is needed to accomplish your startup goals, assigning those tasks to individuals and team, and arranging them in a decision-making framework, in bracket organizational structured. The end result of your startups and organizational design process should be an organization wholly consisting of unified parts acting in harmony to execute the tasks required to achieve your startup goals effectively and efficiently. A properly implemented organization process should result in a work environment where all the team members are aware of their responsibilities. If your process is well executed, it could result in, if your process is not well executed, pardon me, it could result in confusion, frustration, loss of efficiency, and limited effectiveness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. We're going quickly into the Q&A. While we're waiting for TD, you need to come up front. I'm sure everybody has 1 or 2 questions for TD. They come up front and face the crowd and tell them why. Okay? So if anyone has questions for TD.
It wasn't me.
So while we're doing that, anyone that's interested in getting a copy of the book, just let myself know or Debo, and we'll give you the details and you walk away with a nice book.
Benedict, the answer is no. Now, what was the question? Yes, Tune. Sorry? Yes, there are copies. That's Biola and the team's department. They know better than me on how to handle all of that. You know, I'm just here to see if anybody has any head-bending questions from the book or otherwise that you want me to answer, knowing, okay, here is the trick part. The longer your questions, the longer before we get out to go get some drinks and proper talking. So let's minimize the questions, eh? So last I checked, no questions, right? Oh, okay. No.
Congratulations, TD. Very proud. I've had the opportunity to use Poem about 3 times, and it's probably the reason I come back to that platform where I met you. Simple question. What was the most challenging period in this long career which you have been able to put in the book?
The most challenging period. I think I'm wired. Oh, you're wired up. Need this. Can you hear me properly? Yes or no? You can't hear from the back. Okay. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. I guess I gotta use the mic. The most challenging period. Much as I don't like regurgitating this, the most challenging period when I look back now, unfortunately for me, most of you may or may not know the story, was when they tore open my front door and they came in 2 a.m. in the morning to Abuja. I was living at Minister's Hill, and I was told, they just said we shouldn't kill you. Foolish man, we gave you money, you didn't take it. Go back to where you're coming from. I was beaten with wheel spanner. and put in hospital for 2 weeks for not accepting to put 2,000 extra names onto the payroll and personnel information system that I'd put in for the federal government. I had discovered 20,000 ghost workers in the process. And I was being backed by Nasir El-Rufai, who was dogmatic that since we found it, that was it. We're keeping the new system. Yeah, sort of getting through that, especially when I discovered that the guy who led the gang that came to attack me at home and tore open my front door and tied my security guard like a goat about to be slaughtered was actually a sergeant in the mobile police office. And I saw him at a checkpoint a few weeks later. That was traumatic. But the most traumatic part was calling my friend Tunji Alapini to say, Tunji, this is what happened to me. And all he could say is, I'm sorry, my friend. They've destroyed the police force. There's not much I can do. When an assistant inspector general of police tells you that, you know, it's time to get out of town. So having to leave Abuja under those circumstances was, for me, one of the most challenging times I've had in my career. I trust that helps. Of course, one person doesn't, they are their own Nigeria. We are our own. We're building a better Nigeria. Absolutely no doubt about that. You know, you talk to some of the young startups I'm working with, the future is bright. Somebody had a question. Yes.
Yeah, congratulations, Tomi. The second to last speaker said something about the board. So my question is simply, what do you look at, or what do you try to, and how do you choose your board in a tech company, especially? Because I worked briefly in the banking sector and I have my own reservations, but what do you look for in a tech company? Thank you.
The critical word is balance. When you're selecting a board, it's about balance. One, you want to be sure the founders are properly represented because it's their vision you're bringing to life. And what I've found is boards where you have, you know, singular representation for multiple founders doesn't work well. So it's founder representation is the first. Where we tend to miss a lot, okay, we get the second part right, which is having board members that understand. Remember, I was talking about market and I was talking about customers that understand the market, customer, product segment you're functioning in and the nuances of policy and other things that apply. That's the second thing you're looking for in your board. Okay. The third thing you are looking for in your board, as I said, is balance. Okay. Men, we have groupthink. Women tend to be more multi or broad capabilities, broader capabilities in thought and in process. Okay, so you want to be sure you've got that diversity in there. And it's one thing to only have Yoruba people or Igbo people or Hausa people or whatever, but having that diversity where there's a diversity of viewpoint, both in terms of background, experience, ethnicity, and all the other things, actually creates a bigger and better business. I trust that helps. Thank you. Yes, sir.
TD, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
You know, those of us who have been followers of TD for 25 years, we see the new concepts and we just laugh because some of the concepts were created in front of us around Fola's kitchen. So, poet's poem.
Sorry, guys, Edwin was one of my guinea pigs. He's an entrepreneur, he's a serial entrepreneur. And I work with entrepreneurs to test our concepts before sharing it with others. So that's where it's coming from. Please continue.
Yeah, so somewhat, those of us who started entrepreneurship in the bricks and mortar world, we like what we see about the tech. I mean, I heard you talk about the bank that's 4 years old. That makes us green with envy. I'd love to grow my food business 10% a month. But the question is, what sorts of things want to create businesses on Africa wide, grow quantum growth in shortest possible time. It's all possible, but what are those kind of things we have to borrow in depth from the tech world to apply in the bricks and mortar world that we play in?
First, I would respond, and fortunately Juliet is here, it's called database decision making. You know, here we love this. I think maybe we should, you know, and then I ask, what's the data to back it up? And people look, this is Nigeria, we don't have data. Well, Asoko Insight, Brighter Bridges, Disrupt Africa, VC4A, the list is going on, big deal Substack are all making that a fallacy. We've got the data on different industries now, and we continue to do, and you yourself can do minor surveys. All you need is 50 people to get an informed opinion about any particular topic. So that's the first thing I think we could borrow from tech, is data-based decision support. Okay. The second that I think is also critical is expect the unexpected. The one thing we've come to accept in tech, look at all of you and ChatGPT. When I was talking about AI 5 years ago, people are looking at me as if TD, we're not ready for that one yet. Now everybody is saying, oh, have you used ChatGPT? Have you used ChatGPT? You know, guess what? There's more to come. Oh. This is just the beginning. You wait till holographics hit you guys. Then you know that.
Take one more question.
You know,
just one more question.
One more.
Just one more.
Okay.
I have a question from Zoom.
Yeah, just let me, back to Edwin. So the nature of technology innovation is to expect the unexpected. Why? Because you're innovating in unknown. Okay, uncertainty is the reality of startups. And that's why we go with database decision support. So that's another thing I think we could borrow from the tech world. I trust that helps. Thank you.
I have a question from Zoom. So while we've all been here, we've had quite a few people on the live stream, on either on YouTube or on Zoom. So I wanted to make them feel included in the event. So there's a question from a gentleman called Damilare, who wants to ask how soon do you select a board if you're a startup? So how soon do you start thinking about a board, and when do you need to have a board as a startup?
As soon as is humanly possible. You and your co-founder constitute the first board. The question is, when do I get an independent, okay, who's not sitting with me in operations at the board level? And I strongly suggest, even if they don't come as director, they come as advisor, always have that objective, independent individual, okay, who's been there, done that, and has the t-shirt as a sounding board that you can knock things off of. That would be my recommendation. I trust that helps.
I'm sure he's satisfied with that answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for taking that time. Yes, you're still up, so we'll just go straight to the vote of thanks, then we can go have a meal.
You know who's the boss now. Huh? Share that they see. Okay, the power of delegation. Well, vote of thanks. Where do I even start? Well, first, I'd like to thank my wife that she made it. I would definitely like to thank my siblings. Tizo, Bimbo, take a bow. That's my sister. Bimbo, take a bow. That's my sister, Bimbo Joseph. Where's my brother, Tokumo? Take a bow. It wouldn't be complete because I have some egbons and aburos here. Make una no vex, okay? Brafola, take a bow. Fola Arthur. Thank you. Frankie, thank you, sir. Bonje, Bolaji Akiomi. Oh, that was Frankie Goka, my brother-in-law. And where's our baby, Timmy? He's the tallest of the lot, Timmy Akiomi. Oh, Dilo, when did you come? Mr. Ladia Josia Diogo, thank you. Now, if I went on, you guys get upset, but I have to do this. You said it's my day, right? And it's just, I'm holding drinks, right? So here's what I'm going to do. If you like, make a vex. If you like, make a no vex. Juliet, thank you. Fadila, thank you. Jumoke, thank you. Mezazaniche and Aniche, gracias. Hola. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please help me thank Ola Brown for making this happen? I've thanked you already. Lande, thank you. Amaju, thank you. Bolaji, thank you. Uche, I've done your bit. Thank you, and thank you. Thank you. We have pending matter. Okay. Mr. Adebi, I thank you very much. Now, let me just, you see these guys here? They're called Sparrow Lucen. They're Casey boys. Except, no, don't worry, we won't hold it against you. Ifeanyi Okoro, thank you. Folama Egbo. And this is my class captain. His name is Ibrahim Abdullahi. Thank you. Yeah? Frankie? Which Frankie? Frankie was my brother-in-law. Did I not greet Frankie? Thank you. Okay. Baby. Hello. That's Tokumo's other half. Mr. Akin, John Akindele Roxon. I got to tell you a little bit about him. It's because of him I joined Sproxel that we sold $3.5 billion to Publicis. It was courtesy of Aki. He's the one that dragged me out of Ernst & Young into Sproxel. Benedict Folami and Olushola, thank you. Fumi, thanks. Edwin, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Emeka, I'm glad you came back. Thank you. Auntie Uche, Mr. Ogundare, Charlie. Okay, but we are pending matters. Good. Korede. Ina, you made it. Thank you. This is a son of mine. Please, could you just stand up for a second? I defer to him. Let me tell you why I defer to him. Please, Silva, can you tell them how many books have you written and published? 4. 4. So I've just caught up. And he's the son. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Oh, Korede Uncle, thank you. And Collins. Oh, wow. Now, I'm sorry. Yes, it's my day, so I can do anything I want. You see this, my brother here. These two, my brothers. This is Collins Onwebu, and this is Folabi Eso. Biola has gone, but these two gentlemen were there when we started the Lagos Angel Network 11 years ago. They were the ones day in, day out. They didn't think I was mad. They didn't think I was stupid. They, in fact, put their money into some of the startups that I brought before them. So thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Now, if I missed you out or I didn't remember your name, I can claim old age. All right? But if I did, I actually meant those thank yous. Each and every one of you like I said at the beginning, has made me what I am. Without you, I am nothing. But with you, I'm everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TD. And thank you, everybody, for making our time to come today. We have a light meal at the terrace. For anyone that wants a copy of the book, let me know. We can sort it out immediately. So nobody's walking out of here without a book. I can guarantee you that. So they will man the doors. Thank you, everybody. And the book is going for 25,000 Naira. And we have an account you can transfer. So bring out your phones, all those things. It will work today. If it's not network. So do pick a copy and pay for one, and don't walk out of here without one. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening, and do grab something to eat at the terrace. Thank you. My name is once again Abiola Dixon Okoye. Good night. Have a lovely evening.